Wake up with wake. Okay. Okie dokie. Okie dokie. Okie dokie. Okay. So there's so much information and so many ideas, so much speed, so much information, so many ideas. Everything is happening so fast. So fast. That being behind is inevitable. This is the era of behind, the era of being behind. one delineation between this and last era could be referred to as being behind, which is now and into the future, and being caught up, which had different eras. Depending on which media you're talking about. But if we talk about TV media, for example, there was a time when there was a thing you liked, TV show, for example, and you watched it the night that it came out, and then you were caught up and you were looking forward to it being out next week. And then you watched it and you were caught up. It was out the next week. And then all of a sudden there were like many months where it didn't exist. And so you couldn't watch that. So you watched another show, and then you watched another show. And you reach this point where you're caught up on all the shows that you like, right? You're not caught up on everything, but you're caught up on everything that you've looked around. And you're like, yeah, I like that, and I don't like that, and now the amount of shows that might be really good that you're not watching, and that if you do want to watch them, there's like 8 seasons of them ready for you to stream, to binge, one after another, after another, after another, after another, one after another, after another, after another, after another. One after another, after another, after another, after another. So there's so much. And all the big streaming companies, now with 50 million, now with 2 million, now with 40 million, now with 70 million, There's just so much of it. Way back in the day, you'd turn on the radio. You turn on the radio, and that was the information you had access to. And then there was a time where it was like, do you want to watch the news at 6 p.m. on Channel 4, or the news at 6 p.m. on Channel 7, or the news at 6 p.m. on Channel 9? And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, now there's hundreds of channels, and now there's dozens, hundreds of platforms with billions of channels. So there's so much information and so many ideas. And how do you decide when to tune in? When to tune out? How do you decide when to be absorbing all this information, or when to be scheming all these different ideas, like, oh, I could do that, I could do this, and when to just be, like, when to just be. I like to hope that people can just set aside some time and be. Because ironically or paradoxically, or whichever way it goes, and cliche as well, oh, hello, life is in the simple moments. Life is found in the simple moments. Now, another cliche, but there's the whole when we're on our deathbed thing. Are we going to regret not consuming more content? No. And this is where you go down that rabbit hole. If you go down that rabbit hole of what are the regrets of the dying, the 5 most common regrets of the dying, then you're faced with some existential quandaries of whoa, do I want to change? Do I want to change? Do I want to change? Or do I want to keep living this way? Because the dying, the way that I look at it, are essentially experts on life. They've experienced the arc and the arch of life, and now they're looking back. The dying, whether young or old, but typically old, but can also be young, dying, those who know they're going to die in a few months or a few weeks or a few days or a few hours, they see things from a vantage point and go, whoa. And if you listen to that when you're living, it's an opportunity to wake up and change, if you want to. So then what do you do with all this information and all these ideas? You invest. You pick and you choose and you invest. What's going to be my thing? I mean, it goes back to that intentionality piece. With all this food in the grocery store, What am I going to intend to put into my body? With all these YouTube channels, what will I intend to bring in to my eyes and my ears? With all the 300 projects I have running through my brain, what 3 am I going to execute on? What 1 am I going to execute on? What 3 will I align myself with? What 3 will I say, yeah, that really matters. That's really worth it. I think a big piece of it too is this epidemic of low self-worth. And if we have the self-awareness, if we have the self-awareness it's like if the parents or the society help with the self-worth, all the better. But if we grow up and don't have good self-worth, if we have the self-awareness and the capacity to grow our own, there's a definite correlation between self-worth and valuing our time. One's worth and valuing one's time. Yeah, because when you value your time, you think about investing it rather than spending it. You think about if I had high self-worth, or if I valued my time highly, how would I be investing this time? How would I be investing it consciously? Rather than just going about this to that, to this to that, to this to that, how am I going to invest this consciously? And that's when you start, again, and there's that connection between conscious and intention. Okay, I'm conscious. I'm aware. I'm not in the stressful fight, flight, hustle, bustle of this to the next to this, and then all of a sudden the day's over, or all of a sudden the month's over. I've caught a moment of awareness, consciousness. Here I am. Because there's that path, right? There's the path of unconscious, unintentional. Even the day ahead of me, right now, I could go onto a track of, this thing now, I'm going to go to this kind of like impulse swim, now I'll do that, now I'll do that, guess I'll do that, now I'll do that, guess I'll do that. Or I can be like, okay, from 8 to 8:30, I'm going to do some contemplating. Then from 8:30 to 10, I'm going to go for a 3-mile walk. Then from 10 to 10:20, I'm going to tidy up the kitchen and do some dishes. And from 10:20 to 10:45, read that book. And at 10:45 to 11:15, I'll have that smoothie. Yeah, I'll have that smoothie with the chia seeds and the frozen mangoes and the da 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 da. And then from 2 to 4, I'll work on that project. And then from 4 to 5, da da da. And then from 5 to 6, I'll read that. And from 6 to 7:30, I've been really wanting to watch that movie, so I'm gonna that documentary. So I'm gonna watch that documentary, and da 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 da. And like conscious intention, that there's something to that. But still, we come back to ideas and information. With all these ideas and possibilities swirling through, what do I truly invest in, and how do I truly invest in it? That's an interesting metaphor. I've never thought of it like that. But let's play around with it. Let's say I have Let's say I have. Let's say every day I'm given $16. And I'm ushered over to the roulette table of life. And the man working at the casino, the man or let's make it a genie. Let's make it a non-binary genie. A non-binary genie is working at the roulette table. And they say, place your bets. And you've got these $16, so you hand over the $16 they give you a $10 chip, a $5 chip, and a $1 chip. And they say, place your bets. And you look down and you're like, I only have 3 chips. I only have 3 chips. And 1's to 10. Where do I put that? I don't really want to put that on anything. So you say to the dealer, I don't even know if they're called a dealer or roulette. You say to the genie, hey, can I trade in my 10 for my $10 chip for 10 ones? They say, sure. Pass over your 10 ones. So now you've got 11 ones and a 5. And you're like, okay. What do I want to invest in? Okay, I think I'm gonna put a 1. I'm gonna put a 1 on. I'm gonna put a 1 on 0. I'm gonna put a 1 on 00. I'm gonna put. I'm gonna put my 5 on red because I'm really feeling red today. I'm gonna put my 5 on red. And with my remaining 9 ones, do I have 9 ones or 10 ones? With my remaining 9 ones, I'm going to put those on I'm going to put those on 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 17, 18, 19. And that's a day. That's a day. But you can't put a chip on every single number. You can't invest in everything. You can't do everything. If you do an hour of this, you can't always do an hour of that. You run out. If you do an hour of running, you can't necessarily do an hour of bowling. If you do an hour of reading, you can't necessarily do an hour of movie watching. And if you try to add everything, if you're like, no, I'm going to do that, then you don't do an hour of work. I mean, there's only so much. So when you think about the ideas that you want to invest in and the information that you want to invest in, think wisely. Because we've got that genie. And they spin the wheel, and the ball drops, and it bounces around. And 24. I can't remember if 24 what the color is. But let's just say it's black. 24 black. Well, none of your chips paid. And I think that goes back to patience and resilience, which is, because truth is, it's not a day. Most things aren't a day game. Most things aren't a day process. And so it's, what are you willing to, what do you have the courage to choose, to invest in? It's almost like the metaphor would better serve at the end of the year, because it's not so much a daily thing. It's like you've gathered up all these chips. You've put your chips on. You've put your chips on 00, and then all of a sudden December 31st rolls around, and there's a big spin, and you either get it or you don't. Because most things that people work on, I mean, say someone's working on a book. You could work on a book for 3 years. 3 years you could work on a book. Every day for 3 hours. Or you can work on a book for a year, every day for 8 hours. Plug away, plug away, plug away. And for one person, that book sweet beer. For one person, that book it's a bestseller that sells 14 million copies and makes them a multimillionaire and provides for them for the rest of their life. And for another person, that book just sits on their computer. Or they self-publish it and sell 11 copies. Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy, buddy, buddy. Oh, buddy boy. Now, was it a good idea for both? Was it a good investment for both? The one who sold 14 million copies, obviously it was a good investment. The one who sold 11 copies or didn't publish it at all, it's questionably and subjectively a good, a neutral, or a bad investment. Because it's not just about metrics and quantitative and money and accolades. Maybe the process was so nurturing and so fulfilling and so meaningful and so transformative that it actually was worth the investment. That it was worth the idea. But a person cannot sustain themselves in this world if none of the ideas bear external fruit. So that's where I think things get a little clearer. Is if you're selecting between 36 ideas, if there's 36 or 3,600 ideas on the table, and you can only select 12, your big idea with the $5 chip, and your small ideas with the $1 chips. Choose as wisely as you can. Diversify as wisely as you can. And choose ideas that are inherently meaningful and fulfilling. I think that's where it all lies. Choose ideas that are inherently meaningful and fulfilling. So that if they quote-unquote succeed, you're happy. And if they quote-unquote fail, you're happy too. Happy is a fill-in word for at peace, or okay, or fulfilled, or that you're able to say, yeah, that person in both versions of reality are able to say, absolutely, absolutely, that idea was a good investment of my time. Whether or not I sold the 14 million copies and became the millionaire, or no one ever read it, that was a good investment of my time. That's where things get really interesting. When you start asking yourself the question, What art would I create if I knew no one would ever see it? What poem would I write? What painting would I paint? What short story would I write? What would I write if I knew that no one would ever see it? What would I write? What would I create that would be so fulfilling in the creative process itself that it would be so meaningful in and of itself? And conversely, what would I create? What would I paint? What would I sing? What would I do if I knew everyone on the entire planet would experience it? What would I create? And that's related to ideas. Choose as consciously as you can, and then recalibrate. Information is a little bit different, right? Because it's about what you're taking in as opposed to what you're putting out. So, for example, I haven't watched Game of Thrones. It's a piece of information, fictional, that I haven't consumed, experienced. Now, at some point in my life, I could choose to invest. I could say, okay, I'm gonna, every night for the next 3 months, or every night for the next 6 months, or whatever, I'm gonna watch an episode of Game of Thrones. That could be an intentional, conscious part of my entertainment, imagination, relaxation category of life. Maybe I do that. Or maybe I say, you know what, given my value system, given my priorities, that's not something that I need to give my life energy and time to. If I don't watch the Game of Thrones, will I be lying on my deathbed regretting that? No. Would those 90 hours that I spent watching Game of Thrones have been better spent writing 90 love letters to those who I've experienced life with? Perhaps. Is it fair to compare those two? No. Is it worthwhile asking the question? Yes. But now let's say a romantic relationship comes along and the romantic partner says, "Oh, let's watch Game of Thrones." Then it's no longer just about Game of Thrones and entertainment and relaxing. Then it's about bonding and relationship building. And you can ask yourself a similar question. And say, my partner's super excited to start watching Game of Thrones. Do I want to join them in that? That could be fun. I was already on the fence. That could be kind of fun. All right, let's do it. Let's give 100 hours of our lifetime to that, because we'll be together and we'll be experiencing it, and it'll be connection and closeness. Or perhaps the answer's so clear for an individual, and the answer's like, no, I really just don't need that. Or if in a relationship the person says, hey, do you want to watch all 8 seasons of, and you're like, I've already seen that, but it is fun. Then it's more of a relationship choice. But giving some consciousness to what shows, what podcasts, what books. I mean, it's like, what books do I want to hold in my hand? In my lifetime, what books do I want to hold in my hand and read page by page? And what books can I say, you know what, it's okay if I never read you? But when you start to think in that way, when you start to think in terms of how limited time is, you start to think in terms of how much time do I actually have? And then you start to think of all of the quality things out there. There's this subsection, this subsection of quality, where you're able to go, that's a really meaningful, it's a really meaningful meditation, or that's a really meaningful book, or that's a really meaningful, I've got to experience that in this life. You start to become, again, as it ties to self, and you've got the self-worth tied with valuing of one's own time. It also ties into other worth and the valuing of other people's times, and to go, you know what? You know what? You know what? I think those are of such quality. And quality can be measured in however you want to measure it. How much it makes you laugh, how present it makes you feel, how much it makes you think, whatever the experience is internally. This is not a resolved exploration. This is an ongoing one that will be shaping the next several days, next several weeks, next several months of the art of living, the conscious art of living rather than the passive byproduct of being alive.